Am I the a-hole stories? Am I the a-hole for saying I didn't choose my family? My dad has been married to my stepmom for 7 years. I, 17 female, lost my mom when I was 6 and he started dating her when I was 8. We all got along okay, and when my dad was about to propose he asked me how I felt about his wife being my new mom and her kids my siblings. I said I didn't want a new mom, and if that's why he was marrying her, I didn't want him to because I wouldn't replace my mom for anyone. My stepmom asked her kids the same, but they said yes. Then they both asked each of us. I said the same thing when they both asked, that if they were getting married for her to be my new mom, then I didn't want it. They ignored me and went ahead anyway, and I admit, I was salty. I was especially annoyed when they tried to get me to make a speech at the wedding, accepting them as my mom and siblings. I get along with her kids for the most part, but I do see a difference in how we view the blended family. They see us as not blended, just as a family, while I do see us as a blended family because my nuclear family was my mom, dad, and me. This difference sometimes means some awkwardness. Like when I asked my dad and stepmom to let me keep a photo of him, my mom and me, before she died in the living room, they said no, and her kids were upset that I wanted to have it there. They're 2 and 5 years younger than I am. There has always been a disconnect with my dad and stepmom, because they call me their daughter. She calls herself my mom, and he refers to her as my mom, but I don't. I never have. Sometimes I say she's my dad's wife to others, around them I say stepmom. But I have never said mom. I call her by her first name. The disconnect is something they tried to end more than once, by reassuring me I could have another mom, by getting my dad's family to say the same, while asking why I don't want another mom. I always ask why she can't be just my stepmom. Anyway, a few nights ago, my step-siblings were talking about how we got to choose our family, and how awesome that is. They brought up that I didn't take part in the wedding the way they did. I said they might have chosen their family, but I didn't. They said that wasn't true. I told them it was. My stepbrother, the youngest, got upset and asked why I didn't choose them. I told him it was because my dad tried to force me to accept their mom as my mom. They don't see the big deal with that. I told them I already had a mom. They said I didn't, that their mom was my only mom. My dad and stepmom were mad, and they're still mad. We haven't actually talked, since my dad said I should have stayed quiet 3 nights ago. My stepmom was also widowed when she was pregnant with my stepbrother. She and the kids never talk about their dad, and one time, I made a comment about our dead parents and I was told to drop it. All the photos of their time before she was a single mom are gone. The kids actually don't consider their bio dad part of anything. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You didn't choose your family. You were asked for your thoughts on the marriage, and it was sidestepped, instead of there being further conversation about it. It seems like your dad and stepmom might not be handling the loss of their spouses very well. The way they're trying to expunge the memories of them goes beyond healthily moving on after a loss. Exactly. My advice is to maintain contact with your maternal family, and make sure they have copies of all those old photos with you and your mom. Not the a-hole. What the hell? They're trying to pretend that your mom and your stepbrother's bio dad didn't exist. You have every right to feel the way you feel. If you don't want her to be your mom, then she's not. They are trying to force her on you, but that's just not how it works. You even told them that you didn't want her to be your mom and they ignored it. They probably thought, or hoped, you would change your mind after a while. It sounds like there's no use in trying to explain it to them more though. They might never understand the way you feel. I think that you're doing really good by sticking up for yourself. I don't know. With the step-siblings, it might help to point out, being older when the mom died, means OP has a lot of memories and experiences with the mom than they do their dad. So, it is natural that OP's feelings and experience will be a little different. It does not mean OP is rejecting them or their mom. Not the a-hole. Your feelings are yours and they are valid. I'm sorry that your dad and stepmom have been ignoring how you feel, and not respecting your boundaries in the family dynamic. Your stepmom should not be insisting on being called your mom, and your dad should not be supporting this. Only you get to decide who is a mother figure in your life. Family therapy may be an option to help address these issues within your family, but that only works if everyone involved is willing to listen and respect each other's viewpoints and feelings. Individual therapy may be helpful as if you want help in sorting out your feelings in this complicated situation. Sadly, therapy isn't a magic fix though, for this immediately. I wish you the best for the future. You're almost an adult, and when/if you leave home, That will give you more freedom to establish family boundaries and determine the relationship you want. Edit. Also, your step-siblings asked the question, you are allowed to answer it honestly. In supportive healthy families, that's what happens, you voice your feelings. You were not intentionally mean in any way shape or form, and should not be expected to keep the peace on something like this by being quiet. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not agreeing to a name change for my daughter, despite her father wanting one? My ex and I were engaged, living together, and planning on trying for kids after the wedding. The wedding got delayed and I found out I was pregnant shortly after. My ex freaked out. Insisted it couldn't be his baby because he wasn't ready to be a dad. That this was all happening too fast and wasn't how we planned it, and said he needed some time to think everything over. He then moved out, blocked me, and didn't answer any kind of attempted contact, for 10 months. Our child was born without him there, and I named our daughter, Elizabeth Laura Smith, without his input. Elizabeth because I like it and it reminds me of my favorite book character. I work in literature, Laura after my grandmother, and Smith is my surname. My ex has since reached out. He said he waited this long because he wasn't sure how far along I was when we were together, but he figured the baby had to have been born by now. I said that his timing was a little off, because she's 5 months old. Ex has said he's planning to sort out custody. We've not discussed logistics yet, but he's unlikely to get anything before she turns 1. He asked if I'd named her yet, and I told him what I'd named her. Ex then said he hates that name. He thinks it sounds old and stuffy. He says that as his mother, Mary, has recently, November 2019, passed away, he wants to name our daughter Mary. He says Mary must be the first name, and that I can have either Elizabeth or Laura as the middle name. I made it clear, in no uncertain terms, that I will not change her name. I hate the name Mary. I hate how it sounds, both alone and with Elizabeth/Laura Smith at the end of it. Plus, I didn't like his mother either, though I didn't remind him of that. Ex said, that if we're going to co-parent, then I have to learn to compromise, and this is the place to start, and that it's unfair that I got to choose both her first and middle name. I said that if he hadn't blocked me for the better part of a year, he'd have been able to say all of this when she was born. Ex said that the above is proof that I'm being petty, and that he can undo the past, but I can prevent any feelings of dislike/resentment from him over this name in future. That as the father, he should have a say in his daughter's name. He also says that he's willing to let her be a Smith and not force me to use his surname, which he feels is proof he has already negotiated. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Pretty freaking ballsy of him to get a hold of you when your daughter is 5 goddamn months old, and the first thing he does is start making demands. I'm not even sure how he's timed this. She was a month premature, but even then, he was 4 months late to the estimated birth? And didn't speak to me for 10 months? The best math I can offer is, he's assumed I was only a few weeks along when we were last together, when I was actually closer to 4 months, and then he just counted out 40 weeks, but that still doesn't make sense. I'd say that he didn't want to deal with a newborn baby, and took his sweet time to realize he wanted to be a dad. Use the fact that the math doesn't check out, and that he is lying about it in your legal case for custody. He abandoned his pregnant wife for 10 months, and lies when coming back. If he wanted to come back when the baby was born, he could easily have kept some tabs on you, and regularly check if the baby was born yet. Not the a-hole. Jesus Christ. If this is real, you should continue the no contact. This guy is unstable. It's unfortunately real. He seems sane enough, but he's been able to get in touch because none of my contact info has changed. I even still live in our old flat, though I've changed the locks since he moved out. If he wants to contact me, I'm not sure how to stop him, and if we end up debating custody, he could say that I'm trying to keep him away from Elizabeth by not answering his attempts at contact. Not the a-hole. You're so far from being the a-hole. Don't give him anything. If he wants visitation, he needs to get a lawyer and file a legal petition for paternity. And you hire a lawyer, and your lawyers, and a judge, if necessary, iron out his visitation and child support. You and your lawyer's side should be that your ex fled when he knew you were pregnant and shouldn't have custody. His visitation should be supervised for a significant length of time, so he can demonstrate his ability to parent. And he needs to pay child support. There's a good chance he'll ghost you again when you tell him to have his lawyer call your lawyer. But definitely do not just hand this man your baby, nor change your name because he wants it changed. There's a good chance he'll ghost you again when you tell him to have his lawyer call your lawyer. I'll contact someone and arrange this. I kind of hope you're right, but I also kind of hope you're wrong. I want my daughter to have a dad, but I need to know he has his stuff together." The next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my sister it's not my responsibility to help her out when she messes up?" I, 29 female, have a sister, 27 female. We have never been close. I found her annoying as a kid. She found me really unfair, when I wouldn't give her money and stuff when I started working, or when I wouldn't share every single thing I had with her. I remember when a friend gave me one of the Simpsons PS2 games as a birthday gift, and I was made to share with her and she broke it. So, I wouldn't let her play with my console or games again. She got really mad and I told her to suck it up and buy her own stuff, since she couldn't be trusted. It was the third time she broke one of my games. Things got really bad between us after that. She said I was never a good sister. I told her she was always annoying. After I moved out, we had a slightly better relationship and I learned to kind of ignore her more annoying qualities. She got kicked out of college when she was 18 and wanted to live with me versus going back to her parents, and our relationship took another kick, because I was not okay with her living with me. I always felt like we were better apart, and I thought she needed to learn the hard way about responsibility. Our parents agreed. And she got back on her feet. Then she got with a jerk and didn't like that I wasn't more supportive of her. I was annoyed at the time, because she knew he was a jerk before she started dating him and she still agreed to go out with him. Then she met her ex/baby daddy, and everyone knew he was bad news. She even admitted she had doubts about him, but then she went on to have 3 kids with him, while knowing he was a deadbeat to 7 other kids he has. Now he has left her broke and she's struggling, and she asked to move in again. This was after she told me to be a better sister. I needed to not talk to my colleague Jessica, fake name, because Jessica is the mother to one of the baby daddy's other kids. I told her I wasn't going to make my work life more difficult because of her choices. She said I was picking a colleague over her. And now she wants me to help her out by giving her and the kids a roof over their heads and financial help, until she can get back on her feet. I told her it was not my responsibility to help her, when she was the one who messed up, by knowingly staying with someone who walks out on his kids. I told her she needs to learn how to take responsibility for her actions. She's pissed at me. She told me I was an a-hole for kicking her when she's down, and being a bad sister. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Do not set yourself on fire to keep her warm. She has a history of not being able to accept responsibility and gaslighting. You do not need that. Have you flipped that statement back on her? Because she definitely needs to be a better sister. Yup. Remind her of some AITA age-old wisdom. That one thing about games and prizes. Also remind her that the children will ultimately be taken care of. Preferably by herself as the mother, or otherwise by CPS. Not the a-hole. You don't have an obligation to provide financial or housing support to her. However, you should maybe let the childhood slights remain in the past. I just knew it would be asked what happened in the past that made our relationship the way it is, so I wanted to provide that. Not the a-hole. I feel sorry for the kids, but she's the one who decided to have 3 children, knowing full well that the father dipping was a very real possibility. She should have had money stashed away or been preparing for the worst at the very least. But she didn't. And now she expects you to be saddled with her and 3 children? Do not let her in. Chances are, the second she steps foot in that door, you're never going to get her to leave. Some people just don't get along, and her life choices shouldn't be a burden on you. If she's really struggling, she can seek aid. There are programs available to her. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling people the truth about why I changed my last name and making my father look bad? When I go home to visit my family and friends in my hometown, I sometimes run into people who know my father, and they find out that I changed my last name. Many people assume I got married, but I tell them no, I changed from my father's to my mother's. I try not to give out more information than that, and I do not like having everyone know my business, but some people really press me for information. If they insist on knowing, I tell them bluntly and honestly, that my father mistreated me, is homophobic, stated that he never wanted children, and I was ashamed to carry any part of his name, but proud to have my mother's. I also tell them I changed my middle name too, from my father's first name to a name of my own choosing. My brother informed me that when I say this, it gets back to my father and stepmom, both of whom think I am cruel and heartless, and even my brother thinks I go into too much detail about the reasons. That I should withhold information which he considers slanderous to my father, and just say I took my mother's name, and leave it at that. As far as I am concerned, my father does not deserve my kindness nor respect, and I should not hold back truthful information if asked. Am I the a-hole? Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. Life has consequences, and you don't have to hide or be ashamed of the reason you changed your name. Boo-boo, a grown man is mad that his adult child wants nothing to do with him because of his own actions. Speak your truth. A quote I came across recently in love is, "Tell your stories. If people wanted you to write warmly about them, they should have behaved better." Anne Lamott. It's not slander if it's true. Not the a-hole. As far as I can tell, that is sort of true in a legal sense as well. It's not a defamatory statement, libel, slander, etc., if it is true, or an opinion. The fact that OP changed their name is a fact, and I assume the part about the father not wanting kids, is as well. The rest are character judgments of theirs which would be considered opinions. Though, I'm guessing if you had to describe how true most of those statements are, they probably are as well. Not the a-hole. Your father doesn't deserve to get to tell you, you are unwanted and unacceptable, when you are in the vulnerable position of a child. Then get to expect you to continue to allow him to let people think of him as your father when you are old enough to do something about it. Good for you for doing something about it, and not hiding your truth. Edit. I'm still thinking of you because this hits very close to home. I want to add something. I was told many of the same things as a child, and then later as I grew older that I should at least be grateful for the meager things my immediate family, namely my father, did do. I'm going out on a limb here and assuming this also applies to you. Gratitude is a choice, not an obligation. It is a gift from you, and you do not owe it to anyone. And that's it for this video, guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll catch you in the next one. Good day, everyone.